It's been a while since I've done a video like this, but considering the current state of the financial markets, including the crypto market and even the Splinterlands market, I think it's time for my perspective as an OG from Splinterlands. That is someone who's been there since the very beginning. And I've also received a bunch of questions lately, which kind of shows me and kind of indicates the level of worry that people have, in particular in Splinterlands. And I think what I would like to impart, based on my previous experience in Splinterlands and just some general knowledge of financial markets over a long period of time, is that uh, there's a period of time where things start to kind of go down, and you still have this really positive sentiment where people are telling you to buy the dip and that they're not worried. And actually, in my previous narrated video, I talked about this. And what I had said was that when you hear things like buy the dip, you are not at a capitulation stage. And what capitulation means is basically like everybody who um, can possibly sell has sold, and that it's just total blood in the streets, and that there's only one way to go at that point because everyone's already sold, and that would be back up. But when you're hearing buy the dip and these catchphrases from what I would say would be some inexperienced investors, which unfortunately a lot of cryptocurrency investors are pretty inexperienced, just due to the fact that Bitcoin itself has only been around for 12 or 13 years, which is not a very long period of time for an asset class. When you stop hearing the calls to buy the dip, that's when I think that you can be a little bit more confident that a lot of the pain has already been experienced in the actual market. So we've started to kind of see that. We don't hear buy the dip as much anymore. You know, people are still saying hodl, but they're doing it in a way that's a little more reluctant, possibly than before, because they're scared. And first of all, that's understandable. I want to acknowledge that it is very scary to invest in crypto and to experience these major volatile times. And I understand that. And I'm not here to tell you that everything's going to be fine. I'm not going to throw out the WAGMI. I'm not going to use any sort of catchphrases like that, because they actually don't mean anything, and I think they give the wrong message. Because for a lot of people, they're not going to make the right move in these situations because of that inexperience that I spoke about earlier. And I think that if we have the mindset that things only go up, then it creates a level of expectations that actually ultimately hurts us. So some people aren't going to make it because they're going to panic sell. And that's because their expectations were not in line with reality in the first place. So back to specifically Splinterlands, some of the things that I'm seeing in the Discord, which I warned about before, is when you start to see this real start of just churning of attitude, of people getting really scared and panicking. And that to me is a massive indication that we're getting towards a point where you may look at some point in the future and think, why didn't I take some sort of action, constructive action, possibly buying something. This is not advice to buy anything, but these are the types of, this is what it looks like. This is what capitulation starts to look like. And you see a lot of angst. You see a lot of worry. I start getting a lot of questions from people about what I feel like the future of Splinterlands is, or what I think is going to happen. And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody does. Matt doesn't know what's going to happen. Aggro doesn't know what's going to happen. But we can look at the past success of Splinterlands and kind of think that it's possible that that success could be repeated, not just because of the sentiment in the overall crypto market, but because of the project itself and the potential of the project itself. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that the quieter the team is generally, I would say the harder that they're working. And it's not that they're just sitting around twiddling their thumbs wondering what to do next. It's that they're working really hard. And I think that we're going to see that in the next couple months in Splinterlands. All of the things that right now are just being worked on are suddenly just going to come out one day, and then we'll look back at this time and understand why the team has been so quiet. And even though the team is still communicating through us through the town halls, etc., they're not necessarily over promising right now, which I think is really healthy overall. So basically, like, the point of this video is to say that, I still have the same amount of confidence that I've always had in the Splinterlands team. And I think that nothing really has changed just because the crypto market is on fire right now in that regard. So the project itself, I think, even though it's correlated to the crypto market, it's still very robust and very strong. And I personally, I'm not too worried about it at all. I'm not selling any of my assets. If I have the available capital and dry powder, I would consider buying more assets. That's not necessarily what you should do, and especially if this is keeping you up at night, this may not be for you. In fact, investing in general might not be for you if that's not concerning to you. But this is really getting really long. I hope you guys like my setup. I got my splinter shards and my dark energy crystals and my cards. And these are all assets that I think ultimately are going to continue to perform well after we get through this capitulation period. So I hope that answers your questions, or at least provides a little bit of a perspective from a Splinterlands OG.